Alrighty, here we are now with everything going on and the gym's closed. I'm hoping that you find this helpful. Perhaps intriguing, but I know there's a lot of other videos out there, and maybe if you already have a workout that you're already doing, maybe you can add this to your repertoire if you find something useful. What we're gonna do, this is gonna be a purely at-home, in-house workout. There's gonna be options for bands, weights, and just plain body weight if you don't have any workout equipment at all. And we're gonna start things off with shoulders today. And what we're gonna do before we get into a workout, just like if you were at the gym or anywhere else, you wanna make sure that you warm up. You can either go on like a jog, something very light to where it's on a scale of 1 to 10, the intensity is around that maybe a 3 or a 4. That way your body's nice and warmed up, your joints, your muscles, and you have that mindset all geared up and ready to go. Now, after the warm up, you want to get into a more dynamic, more specific warm up. So being that today we're gonna start with shoulders, I have a band right here, and what you can do, you step on your band and you just do lateral raises and just 15, nice and easy. Here we go. And now after the 15 laterals, then you're gonna go ahead and do front raises. And remember, nice and easy, just so you can get your muscles and joints warmed up. Okay, now in addition to the laterals in the front, you're gonna go ahead and do some reverses. Knees bent, back relatively straight. All right, so that's going to be our, more specific warm-up for delts. Now, I like to prioritize my workouts with the more difficult exercises first. That's after the warm-up, and then work your way down. Now, with that said, the first exercise are gonna be shoulder presses. Now, there are gonna be a few variations. One, I'll go ahead and I'll start it right now. You grab these same bands, step on them, and you're just going to do a shoulder press. It's all about the motion at your joints. It's just gonna be like any typical, like a dumbbell press or a military press on a Smith machine. There we go. And if you have bands, you can change the resistance. If you have plates, let me get a plate. Same exact thing, over the head, pressing up. Now, if you don't have bands or a plate, you can go ahead and do inverted raises or inverted push-ups. What I do is I go against a wall, go upside down, and do upside down push-ups. Now that's really going to work your delts, and use caution with this. Not too many people can press their body weight, so make sure and be very careful with this. And with that said, we're gonna go over to the wall and I'll show you how I do my presses. All right, here we are. Make sure that whatever wall that you end up going against, if you need a wall for balance, make sure that there's nothing lying around. That way you don't break anything or you break yourself. And not just on the ground, but up top too, anywhere else, because when you're kicking up, you need some space. All right, here we go. Let's see if I can do it on the first time. Oh, one more thing. I have some wrist issues right now, so they are braced up. I'm going to be performing these with a clenched fist as opposed to an open palm. I probably should have taken off my hat. There we go. Success, not a total success because the hat did come off, but we didn't hurt ourselves. Okay, so the upside down presses are done. Now we're gonna go ahead and hit our lateral raises. Few things to keep in mind when you are doing the lateral raises. One is the range of motion. You want to make sure that when you are concentrically contracting, going up, that you go to about shoulder height and go down. And make sure when you go down that you don't relax your arms against your sides. You want to keep constant tension in your muscles while performing any exercise. That helps increase the efficiency as far as the results and actually the efficiency of work that your muscles are doing. Just like this. Now, typically for sets you want to do at least 3 sets, and it all depends on where you are in your fitness journey. Begin with 3 sets if you have been working out for quite some time, and depending on the tension of the band or the weight that you're using, you may want to increase it to 5 or 6 sets. Make sure your back is nice and straight. Now, while you're performing these lateral raises, you want to make sure that you're visualizing your muscles contracting. And when you're doing this, you're increasing the efficiency of the workout. You're making sure when you do visualize your lateral raises, when you visualize your muscle fibers contracting concentrically and eccentrically, you're making sure that those are what's being triggered. Those are what's being utilized, as opposed to using momentum or using any helper muscles. All right, now we're going to head to front raises, and I'll turn around so you can see the range of motion that I'm using. Just like with the lateral raises, you want to make sure that your hands are going up to about shoulder height. And when you come down, you don't want to come down to where your hands are relaxed. Just like with the lateral raises and anything else, you want to make sure that you keep that tension in your muscles that you're using. So here we are, going to the front, about shoulder height and down, making sure that you're not relaxing when you come down, but you're maintaining that tension. There we are. And again, just like before, while you're concentrically contracting and eccentrically contracting, you're visualizing your joint moving. You're visualizing those muscles contracting the whole entire time. That way, again, we're making sure that we're getting the most out of each rep. Those were some examples of using the bands for your shoulders. Now let's grab a plate and show you what the front raise looks like. Depending on the weight that you're using, this is a 25 right here. Same exact thing, you just make sure that your range of motion and your movement is exactly the same as when you're using the band. So, front, again, you're going shoulder height, and then when you come down, you're not letting it rest. And you're not letting it rest on your body either. Okay, so here we go. Now, if you want to make it more difficult, you make sure that the plate is all the way out. If you want to make it easier, you do it with your arms bent. And again, this all depends where you're at in your fitness journey and your strength. All right, so we've hit the main portion of our delt. We've hit the lateral aspect, we've hit the front aspect of it. Now we're going to hit the posterior aspect of our delt, which is often neglected, and generally speaking, it's the weakest part of our delt with reverse Ys. So here we go. Now I have a ladder right here. You can put it on a beam, you can put it on a doorknob, whatever it is. Just as long as the motion is the same, you're going to be hitting the posterior aspect of your delt. Now with this, like I was talking about before, visualization is going to be key on this, especially with dealing with your posterior aspect of your delt, because it is the weakest part of your delt. Other muscles are going to want to help when you're doing this exercise. A lot of people, they really engage their traps or their lats. So visualization is key. Really focus on the joint making the movement, and really focus on the back of your shoulder doing the work. And the range of motion is going to be quite small. I'll show you what I'm talking about. So here we are. Very short range of motion. Just like that. Now you may be surprised, it's not going to take a lot of weight. Many of us can get a workout by merely doing it just with your hands. Just getting that range of motion just like this. If you don't have weights, you can grab a water bottle, you can grab a can of Coke, even though you shouldn't be having Coke around the house. Again, it doesn't take a lot of weight, maybe 5 pounds, maybe 2.5 pounds. So here, let me grab a water bottle. Alrighty, so again, you don't need weights, you don't need bands, you can find things around the house. Water bottles example. Delts have been blasted. Next up, triceps. Now, with triceps, there are a ton of variations of triceps. Generally speaking, the range of motion and the motion of the joint is going to be the same, which is a tricep extension. There are overhead extensions. There's reverse grip tricep extensions. And you can actually even kneel down and do kickbacks, or you don't even have to kneel down. You can stand up, get in a ready position, and kick back your tricep like so. Okay, so I have the bands in hand, so I'll show you what it looks like with the bands. As mentioned before, another variation of the tricep extension is the kickback. Now with this kickback variation, we're gonna use a band. I have one end of the band underneath the couch. And what we're gonna do is go ahead and get in a nice, sturdy, stable position. And make sure that your body is nice and straight, your hips are straight, your shoulders are straight towards the direction of resistance. Grab the band, and you can either have your hand on a chair, you can have it on your thigh, or you can just have it hanging. You're gonna bring your elbow up. Make sure that your arm is parallel with the ground. And when you're doing this exercise, you wanna make sure that your elbow is as stationary as possible. That way, the main contraction, the main muscle working is your tricep. Now that we have a couple variations of tricep exercises using the bands, we're gonna go ahead and grab a plate, and I'm gonna show you a variation or two using a weighted plate. So here we go, here's a plate. And with this plate, you can either use, if you have dumbbells, you can use dumbbells, you can use a plate, or again, you can use a water bottle depending on your fitness journey and where you're at. So, just like with the other tricep extensions, you want to keep your elbow relatively stationary, and this may be a little difficult for some when it comes to the range of motion in regard to arm placement because of the tightness or any shoulder injuries you may have. So be very careful and cautious when you are performing this exercise. Start with a light weight and then gradually progress up. Now, a couple things to keep in mind. Again, make sure that your elbows are relatively stationary, and also make sure that your elbows, you keep them in as opposed to out, because that's going to kind of distribute the force to your shoulders and the lateral aspect of your shoulders as opposed to keeping it directly in your tricep. Now, that's generally speaking. So again, elbows in and stationary when you are doing the tricep extension, regardless of whether you're using a band, whether you're using a plate, whether you're using dumbbells, or perhaps even using a water bottle. Okay, next up are the infamous dips. Now, this is gonna be very helpful for those of you that don't have bands or weights. Most of us do have a chair or some kind of bench that we can work with. And now here I'm going to do a few reps, and then I'm going to show some modifications and then also some adjustments to make it more difficult. All right. Here we go. Now on these, make sure to keep your elbows in, come straight down, just like so. Now, if you want to make these easier, you can go ahead and perform these with your feet on the ground, like this. And if you want to make this more difficult, you can perform these with a plate on your lap. Here, I'll do it right now. There we go. As they say, all good things must come to an end. We're coming up on our last muscle group, the biceps. Now we're gonna go over bands, plates, and even a water bottle on this one. So here we go with the bands. Pretty simple. I mean, most of us know as far as biceps, the general range of motion. So general range of motion, just like with everything else, don't go all the way down to where your biceps are relaxed. Make sure that you constantly have tension in your biceps. So up all the way and down, not necessarily straight, but just bent a tad bit so that you have that tension in your bicep. And again, you want to make sure that your elbows are relatively stationary when you are performing a curl. Now there are different hand grips or hand positions when it comes to doing a curl. There is your general curl like so, your palm facing towards you, or there's hammer curls. Boop. And when you are switching up your curls, they are said to initiate or trigger different parts of your bicep. So it's always good to use versatility when you are performing any exercise. All right, so again, bicep curls. And with the bands, you can put them together and you can do hammer curls on either side, or you can do them separately like so. And what else? Now with the plate, go ahead, grab a plate. Same exact thing. Range of motion is the same, and so is the movements. Keeping your elbows relatively stationary, like so. And with a water bottle, grab your water bottles, bicep curl or hammer curls, and you're done. And then you can even drink your water afterwards. So yeah, so I hope this helped you out. And then in addition to this, I will be following up this video with a at-home in-house workout that requires no fitness equipment whatsoever. Okay, so if you are in that boat pertaining to not having dumbbells or plates or bands, maybe have some water bottles available for this next one. As always, I hope that you found this video helpful, perhaps intriguing. If you did, please go ahead and give this a thumbs up and maybe even subscribe. And then also maybe even share. Until next time, peace! Keep those gains alive.